And T-Bot Moose or Danny hanging out with you this morning. And we're going to start with Ryan Nielsen because that's the big news of the day, in my opinion, especially when you're talking about LSU football and involving the Saints. And I know a lot of people have used this analogy. The first place that I saw it was my man Evan Sachs on Twitter, who, again, I believe is a wonderful follow, very funny. But he basically says, I hate it when mom and dad fight. And that's how a lot of people feel watching the Saints and the LSU Tigers engage in a tug-of-war over a potential defensive coordinator candidate. So currently, right now, James Slater, I believe, was the first to report this. Wannabes, covering Saints Buccaneers on a Sunday night, and then Monday morning breaking news. But LSU is working to make Ryan Nielsen their new defensive coordinator, and reportedly the Saints are shutting it down. There's some contract language reportedly in Nielsen's contract that may stop him from going to the college game if the Saints want to, choose to enact it. And as we're hearing right now, they are doing just that. They are blocking Ryan Nielsen from going from Saints defensive line coach to LSU defensive coordinator. Now, make no mistake, we talked about mom and dad fighting. My allegiance lies with LSU. You cannot stop this man from taking the next big step in his career right now, Coach Payton. And look, I know times are tough right now. Dan Campbell, your assistant head coach, a tight ends coach, who arguably maybe should have worked on ball security a bit more. He will be taking the head job at the Detroit Lions, reportedly. We know that Terry Fontenot, your director of pro player personnel and assistant GM, is in line to be the Atlanta Falcons general manager. We know that due to the cap and everything else, that there's going to be massive turnover on the personnel side as well, like the actual roster. And so there's a lot of change in the air for the New Orleans Saints as you prepare to enter the post-Breeze era. And so I get Sean Payton wanting to retain Ryan Nielsen, especially when you look at Nielsen's success rate as a Saints defensive line coach and why he would want to keep him. But there are a couple of reasons why this may not be the best idea for the Saints. Before we get there, let's talk about Ryan Nielsen and who he is. Without going too much into his resume, so we'll wait until the hiring's final, I'll give you kind of the broad strokes, the highlights, especially the last few years. Now, he has a relationship with Orgeron, played defensive line for Orgeron back in the day. Ryan Nielsen was actually at a 2006 Ole Miss football camp that I was at back in the day, where I met Will Blackwell and a host of other guys that ended up forming long friendships. And I think he was a young D-line coach at the time, very well. Well, he went on to do very well for himself. He kind of first started to really make his name in terms of taking steps back in 2013 when he headed over to NC State. He was the D-line coach as well as the run game coordinator. Okay, that piece is important because it shows a hint of coordinating experience, if not play calling. More importantly, it shows maybe how much he learned in terms of how to stop the run, and you'll see that pay dividends in his Saints tenure. So run game coordinator, defensive line coach from 2013 to 2017. If you remember that Bradley Chubb NC State D-line of a few years ago, he was the architect of that, bringing a bunch of guys who were not viewed as, dominant players and making them into NFL guys, multiple guys off of that D-line, including Chubb, who went to obviously go on and be a very high draft pick. What it means is that it actually made him a Broyles Award candidate, which is for the top assistant in the country. So a nice little resume booster there at NC State. Because of that, he then gets the Saints defensive line job back in 2017 to the present. So it's 4 years. In those 4 years, remember we mentioned run game coordinator. In those 4 years, the Saints are number one in the NFL, allowing just 94 rush yards per game over a 4-year span. That is fantastic. They're third in the NFL in sacks over that 4-year span. Remember like 5 years ago when the Saints couldn't buy a sack? And here they are. They've spent almost half a decade top 3 in the entire league. They've won 4 division championships in a row, which everybody has a hand in, but Nielsen obviously a key part. I mentioned Cam Jordan earlier, and that maybe this year wasn't his best year, but it's not been the case since Nielsen arrived. In fact, Cam Jordan's latest 3 all-pro years, 2017, 18, and 19, all directly coincide with the arrival of Ryan Nielsen. Trey Hendrickson developed under Nielsen's tutelage. What did he just do? He just finished second in the NFL, tied with Aaron Donald for sacks. And then obviously you think about all the other pieces of that Saints defensive line, Onyemata's development, Davenport's development, Sheldon Rankins. Ryan Nielsen and his success is tied to all of it. In fact, what better thing, and look, let's be clear, anecdotally, right? You talk to people and everybody raves about Ryan Nielsen. You saw Jeff Duncan tweeting yesterday when it thought this hire was official, saying that, this would be a home run hire for LSU. Jeff's opinion is representative of the vast majority of people that I've talked to about this. I also think the Saints so publicly and stubbornly fighting to keep him shows the value, especially because that if they keep him, or if they block him from making this move, from getting paid more and becoming a coordinator, if you're Nielsen, that's going to kind of embitter you towards your bosses. Saints know that, and yet they're still fighting to keep him. That's how much they think that he means to that staff. Let's talk about this information getting out there publicly, right? LSU or Nielsen's camp, whoever, putting it out there that he was in line to be the DC, because I think that becomes an interesting question point. Does the leaking of the info help or hurt this Nielsen deal getting done? And it's interesting because I see two ways that this could go down. Maybe the leaking of the information gets the Saints extra angry. They react angrily and they block him. Or, and that doesn't seem like the most likely to me. Or, does the information cause enough public pressure to force New Orleans to bend, because it's a bad look to block this man from getting a career upgrade? And look, maybe the Saints don't give a damn about that part, right? Because I think that the average person does not react very kindly to executives, to higher-ups, to bosses blocking the employee from moving up in the world due to contract language, right? Like the average Joe, you, me, us, we can all appreciate that would be a bit frustrating and have no problem kind of extending a middle finger to the boss in that case. But whatever, right? I don't know that the Saints necessarily would care about that, would care about public pressure or what people think of him. That's also a situation where, sure, what are people going to do? They're going to get mad. They're going to be like, hey, that's messed up. And then they're going to move on with their lives. And the Saints will move on with the offseason. So I don't know if that's the biggest piece here, though it is a piece. I think the bigger piece and the bigger problem with publicly blocking this move, well, it's twofold. First, it's potentially embittering Nielsen, like we said, himself. But the bigger part, in my opinion, is it's a terrible look for any other potential hires, right? Like if you're a young, rising coach and the Saints want you to come and be a position coach and you have options. Now, obviously, if you don't have options and it's just them offering you, you're going to take it almost no matter what. Who knows? Maybe that's how Nielsen got in this deal in the first place, where he has a contract that blocks him from moving back to the college game. But if you're an attractive candidate with multiple offers and the Saints are in competition to get him, make no mistake, people can, I guess you could almost call it dirty recruiting. Teams can use this against you. Why would you go work for that guy? He actively blocked this man from becoming a coordinator and making way more money because of contract language. So I'm going to be fascinated to see how this plays out. If I had to guess, if I was trying to predict, I do think the Saints eventually bend here. I don't say that with any point of authority. I just say that because of what we just talked about. Just kind of looking at it from a public relations standpoint for what it means hiring going forward, for what it would mean for somebody to keep working in an environment where their move to better themselves was blocked. I think there's too many factors working against the Saints in this case. And look, it's a huge bummer because you're losing talent from the Saints, but it does look like you're gaining a ton of talent at LSU. I mean, Nielsen fitting in with a defensive line that is quite literally returning every single player becomes very exciting. I mean, you want why am I blanking? Who's the biggest recruit? Mason Smith. You want Mason Smith under Ryan Nielsen's tutelage? I know I do. Like, that could bring Jaquelin Roy. Are you kidding me? So I hope that mom and dad figure this out. I don't know what maybe LSU's got to pay. Like, I don't know what LSU has to do, but I hope them and the Saints can come to an agreement and Ryan Nielsen can end up as the LSU Tigers defensive coordinator. Time will tell. We'll ask Coach O about it next here on Off the Bench.